If you're a founder building an AI startup in 2026, what are three things you absolutely need to get right?
Most important thing is to not run out of money. So that's the number one job of the CEO. So you gotta, have a roadmap for cash as well. I think there'll be like like an upper bound at some point that we'll reach soon enough. Because LLMs they're built on a certain technology, transformers, and there are certain limitations inherently associated with them.
If I'm an investor looking to invest in a company who is building on top of these AI models, how do I spot which ones are the red flags and which ones do you want to walk out of immediately?
They have fundamental truths working for them, fundamental facts about how humans are and how humans work, capitalizing on how lazy maybe also how humans are.
Let's just get started with what exactly the channel is about and what I'm building. Okay. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So the mission you're at, yeah. So the mission you're at Sprint Podcast is to simply give founders and investors real insights they need to build and back India's next category defining companies. And that's what I'm trying to do over here with you. Now, you're a second time founder who's already exited once. And the thing about startups is most startups either hit that growth curve or they run out of money. And so your startup got acquired. And so I wanted to dive deeper into that today. How exactly can investors sort of spot companies or founders can build companies which go on to be a good companies. So to begin, I would like to ask you before we dive into the main journey and your background. I want a 2026 perspective on LLMs and how they are commoditized and everyone sort of building on the foundational models. And so the question over here is if you're a founder building an AI startup in 2026, what are three things you absolutely need to get right?
I would say the fundamentals of doing a startup have not changed that much. So, three things you must get right: know the customer, build for them, build for a problem that they encounter, and really solve it. Right. So go deep into the problem, solve it really well. That's the first and the most important thing that one needs to do. The second one is continue to iterate the product and iterate the company. So by that I mean, obviously product iterations. You talk to the customers, you get feedback. You build something, then they use the product. You get feedback, you build something, right? So that should be a forever loop. That iteration loop should really never really stop. Um, and same for the company. So as you scale up the company from yourself to two people to five to six to 50 to 100, um, you need to know, and you need to again iterate the team as well, because different stages of the company require people of different skills. And so the current team need to up the skills, right? So they need to learn. You need to teach them, or you need to, as the CEO or the founder, create enough feedback loops, learning training programs. Show the employees a path that, hey, right now you're doing this, but I see you being a manager, and I see you being a leader. You're doing the stuff right now yourself, but in 10 you know in a year you're going to be managing 10 people. So prepare yourself, learn what you need to do. um, and the third most important thing is to not run out of money, right? So that's the
Okay.
number one job of the CEO. Never run out of money.
Hmm.
So you
True.
gotta, have a roadmap for cash as well. So either it's from investment or it's from customers, and just have that cash roadmap very clear.
Okay. Great. Now, if I were to put it in a context of AI, and I think Sam Altman recently said a thing that you sort of need to build on the foundational models and not companies which can later get acquired by these giants like OpenAI or the Geminis or so. What are your thoughts about that? How can basically someone build a company which does not get copied by these giants?
You know, this is a very loaded question, because ultimately the pace at which AI is being developed and how smarter the models are getting, I won't even say year after year. I'll say 6 months after 6 months or 3 months after 3 months, right? That pace is amazing, right? So there's a certain aspect or there's a certain part of a startup that an LLM can sort of do, which is some part of the intelligence. And then some part of it, is still, normal DSA, normal code, normal stuff that we would do earlier before LLMs. And I just see that the scope of LLMs is just increasing day by day, right? So they're able to do more and more of what really like the humans, right, would do. Um, I think there'll be like a yeah like an upper bound at some point that we'll reach soon enough, because LLMs are they're built on a certain technology, transformers, and there are certain limitations inherently associated with them. So probably we should hit some ceiling for a while, before there's a new technology, and then it just there's more research, and then you're blowing past it in a big way.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay.
So
Now,
yes, so to answer your question, like what like specifically, what exactly we need to know.
if you were to sum
um
it up in
I
one
think that's a
line,
very it's very tricky. I think you can't know or you can't predict what anyone else is going to do. That has always included companies like Google, Amazon, and the big guys, right? You never know, but yet you build and you try to do some stuff. Sometimes you get acquired. Sometimes the big company will build a feature that replaces your startup, right? So even before the foundational model companies, that was true for Google, that was true for Amazon, and now there are newer giants like the Open AIs and the Anthropics of the world, but it's similar. The world is pretty similar still. So, coming back to my first point, just solve a really good problem for the customer. And I think just keep iterating from there.
okay. How did how did you solve the problem? I mean, you built Solar Labs, your first company. So how did you figure out that this was the problem that needed to be solved? How did you go about?
Oh, I loved solar. So right from when I started my college at IIT Mandi, I knew I wanted to get into solar. So I did like a bunch of internships at solar companies. I did research projects with professors. So I was trying to figure out like where I fit into solar. And it was during my last internship at a company called Sun Alpha Energy. So they are a resco. So they basically install solar uh, on commercial rooftops, and then they collect rent from it. So basically, they're like a utility, a small utility where they'll install the solar plant, and then the person who's drawing energy from that plant, it will pay them instead of the energy company, right? So working there, I sort of got a few ideas. I saw some of the problems that they were facing, and this was particularly around how they were creating proposals for installer of how they were creating proposals for their customers. So I sort of started from there, It did take a long time. It took maybe like 6 months of the last semester to finalize the idea and validate it. So during the validation journey, we went to, we talked to customers, right? So we went to Delhi. We talked to like literally, I think 30, 40 solar installers, refined the idea, and then we started to develop. So, proud to say that we didn't write one line of code without validating the problem.
That's awesome. Great. Okay. So,
Everyone is a customer of that, right? It's like Amazon, right? So when Jeff Bezos started, he said this thing: customers are always going to want things cheaper and faster. So everything I'm gonna do in the business, every investment I'm gonna make today, and I'm going to continue to make it for the next 20, 30, 40 years, is gonna be for these two pillars. Right? And that's what Amazon does. And since they do it very well, it works, right? I would say even for Amazon, there was no one really asking, right? Get me home delivery, or I want home delivery. I don't think people were really asking for that. But you know, is it more convenient than going to the store, paying a higher price? It's not. So
hmm, yeah.
sometimes customers are there, right? So that's one way of validation. But then you can also have some fundamental truths to base your ideas on, and that doesn't always work, right? But many times it does work, and that's why we see such big disruptive companies that you're talking about today.
Okay, I mean, I absolutely love how spot on it was. I absolutely love the advice. And to put it in a very simple sentence, I would like to ask you, how do you actually look out for these companies if I'm looking at it from a very early stage perspective? Could you just briefly describe how different these companies are?
Which companies?
Like the ones which are not actually, the ones which don't have a real customer base, but then they're solving something meaningful. And then that later on, maybe 15, 20 years down the line, they might or might not have a shot of succeeding. Like, if you could just briefly tell me in one line.
they have to they have fundamental truths working for them, fundamental facts about how humans are and how humans work, capitalizing on how lazy maybe also how humans are. Always money to be made there. Yeah. uh, some companies, like there's Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, right? So they're releasing the fat loss pills. Now, one could always exercise and lose fat, right? But because humans, as in general, we are lazy, right? We'd rather take the easy way out. That's why these are multi-billion dollar companies, and these are multi-billion dollar industries, right? So you gotta find and latch onto some of these fundamental truths and validate those fundamental truths with the right stakeholders. But then you can then build on top of it.
Okay, got it. Great advice, I think. Okay, now I I sort of discussed. Neil told me that you built the company when you were in college, and so I think it really must have been very exciting to build a startup while you're in your college. So could you maybe like go back a little, tell me how did you start, and what made you build a company in your college itself?
So I started, see, I wanted to do something, and I wanted to start. So taking a step back, I wanted to be on the business side of things. So I realized early in college that while I could be technical, I didn't love the whole process of going too deeply down the weeds. I like the more solutions approach where, There are certain pieces of technology and pieces of marketing and pieces of how to do a startup mainly, which I found later. But I like talking to people, figuring out how to solve their problems. And I didn't like to get too deep into engineering, but I liked it at an abstract level where I could sort of, figure out this tech should do this. And I could also figure out that this tech could be built, this tech could not be built and so on. So that solutions approach is why I wanted to be more on the business side, but more on the techno business side, but still business side. And then, I was doing a lot of my projects and internships in solar, right? So I wanted to get into solar. So that much I was clear on. So these two facts were true for me. And then, in my last semester, so I did this internship between my seventh and eighth semester, where to my college incubator, I pitched a marketplace idea that, to do like an e-commerce solar marketplace thing. And then I went to I went for a research internship at a solar company, right? So there I learned enough to sort of not do the marketplace, learn more about the solar industry, and then actually start up the company based on those learnings, right? So the first idea, which was the e-commerce marketplace, I just pivoted away from that completely to a B2B SaaS model. And that's what I ended up doing in real life.
Great. Now, a very, I would say, personal question I would like to ask you is that many, s- what sort of separates students who actually go on to building good companies or build successful startups from those who actually don't? And if you can spot these people very early on, how do you do it? You're from one of the IITs, right?
Yeah. I think it's simple. You got to do stuff, right? You can talk about stuff, but then do stuff. So by doing stuff, I mean, going out, talking to customers, building a solution, taking it out, right? Just setting timelines onto each and every step, and then hitting each timeline relentlessly, right? Moving on to the next step. And while doing this, not giving up in the middle because many things don't work out.
So, to sum it up, proof of execution is what you look for. Mm.
Urgency. You
Yes.
have to have urgency, and you got to have restlessness that, hey, I had to have this done yesterday, and I'm not going to give up. I'm going to make sure that it's done today.
Okay. Now, 7 years in, you sold your company, and how I would say it got acquired, right? So, what was the decision like? How did your life actually change after the exit, and what sort of changed?
So the decision was very painful. Uh, for a founder, a company becomes a part of themselves. So it feels like you're selling a part of yourself or you're selling yourself in a way. So the entrepreneur and the company get so intertwined, right? So that decision was very painful. Um, Luckily, I was able to talk to many advisors and many friends as well who had exited or who were running companies or who were older with more experience. So I got this great advice from one of my friends. He said that a company is different from yourself. It's something that you own. It's an asset that you own. It's not you, right? So, uh, so stop thinking like that and separate it. Think as if you own it, right? And what would you like to do with it? Right? Is this the best time to sell? Is it not? So don't take the emotion out of it. Be more rational. Be more logical. Uh, and I did that, and then I realized that it probably made sense for me to sell. I was probably like 20, 27, 26 at that time, 27 at that time, very young. Yeah. And, I thought that, okay, this is probably not the only company I'm ever going to do in this life, right? There'll be more ideas. There'll be more companies to do. There'll be probably bigger ideas to do. And I went to, I took that logical call that I'm going to aim for life optimization. So not just for myself, but for myself, the team, everyone, all the stakeholders. So we'll get everyone an exit now. The team, myself, we'll get on to better salaries. Everyone gets an exit. Uh, I also get like a badge of, having done an exit on me so that it becomes easier for me to raise money in the future as well. Right. And that has all been true. It's been a lot easier to do certain things. I recognize more patterns now, and so on. Life doesn't change too much. You get slightly more comfortable at home, right? You drive a better car, you stay in better hotels, you maybe are in a bigger house, but like your day to day doesn't change as much. So as an entrepreneur, you still have that hunger that, hey, I want to be doing something and I want to be building something. And hey, what's going on? Let me read the news. Let me look at this new technology. Let me, get my hands dirty. Let me see what ideas I can do next, right? So even though I did exit, my life has still been pretty much the same. I still, we used to sit on the computer. I just keep reading, researching, uh, on what next.
What was your again valuation during the time you exited?
It was in the single $1 million.
Okay. And who acquired it?
It was a US based solar company.
It's still operating.
Yes, it is. So the business I sold has been doing very well, even today.
Do you regret it?
Uh, See, there's always hindsight bias. So when I look at it and when I took the decision, there was no AI. I think that had there, had I seen AI and what it could do, and then I could probably have applied AI to that business and then scaled it up a lot faster. So from that point, I feel a little bit of regret that, hey, man, I could have maybe scaled it to 5, 10 more times and then thought of an exit. But that's with hindsight, right? When you take a decision, you take it looking forward. So I don't regret. I think I took the right decision with the information I had at that point. And no, I don't regret it. It doesn't keep me up. I'm happy with the decision, and I'm also happy at the freedom I now have today that I can pursue my next company. Right. That's also very interesting one. So it's basically like sales and marketing tools, technology that would have helped me scale up my company, right? So I already know that this stuff would have helped me. Now I'm building out this kind of technology, and we're gonna package it as SaaS, and then we'll give it to hopefully other entrepreneurs who are running their businesses, right? So I'm gonna make a living probably out of selling and creating these kind of tools to help other businesses and other entrepreneurs grow their business.
Okay. Awesome. That's where my next question was sort of heading. Now to talk about AI in specific, where sort of the market heading towards, and what do you feel are the real opportunities right now, and what you're building about it?
Yeah, I think AI has a lot of scope that, as we know, right? But that's because we have studied it in a lot of detail. But for the large majority of the world, it's still very early. They still don't realize probably what all AI can do. Maybe AI right now for most people has scratched maybe 2, 3%, maybe 5, 10% of the net potential of what AI can do. Um, so my goal is to help businesses grow faster, increase their sales, increase revenue through various agentic methods, and really grow faster, right? So previously, if you're talking about a company not using any AI, which was probably 2022, right now most companies may have like a few chat GPT or those typical subscriptions, but probably not a lot more than that, right? So there are lots of ways where the AI can come in to different roles and really support the person doing those roles and enhance their productivity and enhance their creativity. So that's some of the things that we'll be focusing on. So the company I'm building is called Fairview, and Fairview will help businesses get growth. Lots of agents, lots of proper, well-designed methods for businesses to use to get there.
Great. You sort of mentioned that we have only scratched the surface with AI, and you said it's only 3-5% of what we have discovered, and there's like more to even know about AI. So, what do you mean by that? Do you mean AGI is gonna come or something else?
I don't know how to define AGI and how people. I think different people have different definitions for it. I'm gonna give a very direct analogy. I'll talk about coding and software development. So probably software development has been the first use case that the foundation companies have really targeted. And that's why we have big companies out now, like there's Cursor, there's Anti-Gravity, Windsurf, Claude Code, and so on. And that has fundamentally changed how software development happens. I would simply say that if a person could do, 100 units of work before AI, now they're easily capable of doing 300 to 500 units of work, right? So now there are two ways of looking at it. Either you keep your existing workforce and you are able to do 5 times more work and grow that much faster, um, or you reduce headcount. So I think companies are doing a combination of that. So how much the software industry has been impacted so far, and we're going to see that optimization happen over the next few years. That does not that level of change has probably not happened in other industries as compared to software development. So my thesis is that that's going to happen in marketing, that's going to happen in more in sales, that's going to happen in um, solar, that's going to happen in like 100 different industries, and it'll take time for that to happen, right? But when it happens, I think it'll be net good thing only because when there's economic growth, then there's new kinds of jobs being created. The same thing happened when computers first came about. There was similar arguments. So I'm hoping that AI provides a similar economic boost, and it improves life net for the better.
Okay. Now, do you think so? Let's say, for example, I raise $1 million, and I'm building a startup. And so, do you think the cost of growing and building the company has drastically sort of reduced because of AI? And do you think it's possible to do things which you could do with like $1 million 10 years back? Can you do it with only $100,000 right now in 2026?
Well, I'd say yes. It's a very subjective question because it'll depend on the kind of idea that you're doing. But definitely, I definitely see, at least half to maybe, half the requirements as before, to maybe more. But really depends on the kind of
The
company
entry of
and the kind
barrier
of
has
idea.
sort of lessened.
Oh, absolutely. The barrier to entry is definitely reduced. Again, by by the same factor, right? Maybe half to uh, more.
Yeah. Okay, now last question about AI would be, if I'm an investor looking to invest in a company who is building on top of these AI models, how do I spot which ones are the red flags and which ones do you want to walk out of immediately?
Great question. I think how I look at it is two factors. The first one is how close the entrepreneurs running that company are to the customers, how quickly they're able to iterate, how good technologists and businessmen they are. Um, right. So a bet on the team. That's always been there. Simple bet on the team. And the second one is, I guess, some moat around brand or data or platformization. Um, so I think these are the two levers that investors probably have to decide right now. I mean, I'd also love to hear more investors come on your podcast and give those thoughts. These are this is my
Yeah,
thesis right now.
definitely. Definitely. Now, if you were to say, like, I want to know, is optimizing your investment for a founder always better? Because I think if the founder is really, really good at what he does, the company could later pivot to becoming a good startup, no matter what the founder is building on. What are your thoughts about that?
Um, no, that's true. So I think one shouldn't optimize too much on like fundraising or this or that. Just raise the right amount, do it carefully, um, have buffers in place, right? Don't try to over optimize, and just focus on delivering value to the customer. You know, whether it's you know, if one part of your software is an AI wrapper or not, it's okay. Doesn't matter. Ultimately, you have to do a good job of solving that problem.
Okay. Awesome. I mean, that's about all the questions. And so to close it up, can you give me three of the good book recommendations or podcasts that you would recommend to other people?
Uh, I really like this book on mental models. Uh, I'm forgetting the name. It's a big red book. So I love mental models. I study them, and they're sort of a tweak for the operating system of the mind. So mental models. Um, Second book would be a book on negotiation and creating win-win outcomes called Never Split the Difference. So it's written by this FBI ex FBI guy, and you know it's a book on negotiation, but it's not about winning, right? So negotiation is not. He teaches that negotiation is not about winning, like, right. A negotiation is only successful when both parties win, right? There can't be one winner in a negotiation. It might one person might win shorter term, but in a longer term, both are gonna lose, right? So it talks about a lot of principles of how to, you know, negotiate these situations, as well as what to realize that what are win-win situations actually, right, objectively. Yeah. So I think these are two really good resources that I like and I recommend your viewers to watch and read.
Okay. Awesome. It was such a great time having a conversation with you. Really, really good advice that you gave, especially about the nuances that you mentioned that goes into building a startup or even figuring out what startups are actually worth. So I would say, like, really, really awesome advice.
Definitely. I'm glad I could provide some value.